Well, welcome to X Encountered. I'm Joe. In this edition of Midweek Magazines, we're going to take a look at C3i magazine number 33. Now, this is not the current issue, of course, but this is one from a little bit back here in 2019, and it features, as you can see on the cover, Mark Herman's Waterloo Campaign 1815. This is the C3i series Volume 2. Volume 1 was Gettysburg, which was in an earlier issue of the magazine. And this one is, well, both Gettysburg and Waterloo Campaign use the same system that was recently featured in Rebel Fury and will be in the upcoming Army of the Potomac. Those are both published, of course, by GMT Games. This one is obviously in the magazine, but well, as we'll see here in a moment, the components that are in this magazine are extremely high quality. So having said that, let's, looking at the magazine itself, now I know you can't see or tell per se, but this is very, very thick, glossy paper. It's very, very nice. Let's put it that way. So we'll take a quick spin through the magazine so you can see what's inside. There are, a list here on the cover, of course, of various things that are in there. And this is, of course, from Roger B. McGowan's studio, and his book, The Art of Roger McGowan, is also featured here on the channel, which is a fantastic book. And if you haven't checked out that video, please do so. It's absolutely awesome. If you're into the history of wargaming and or are an admirer of Roger McGowan's artwork, which is very, very well done, and also very, very prevalent throughout the last 50 years or so of wargaming. So having said all that, let's get into this particular issue of the magazine. I'm going to move the other non-magazine stuff off to the side, and we'll get to that in a minute. But let's take a look here. So you've got your typical back orders, and here you go, 32. It was the issue right before this one. How did I forget? Had Gettysburg in it, and then you had so these are the previous three. 32 with Gettysburg, 31, which had the Battle of Wakefield, which is basically an add-on for Men of Iron, and then you had Mark Herman's South Pacific in number 30. So table of contents. You've got alternative airborne landing locations for Holland 44. That, of course, is a Mark Simonich game published by GMT. That is by Trevor Bender. Then you have propaganda round number 3, stock and flow in war games. So this is part of a series, and it's Volko Runka, who obviously is a fairly well-known and successful game designer. Then you've got Behind Fields of Fire, Infantry Weapons and Tactics. That is by that game's designer Ben Hull. Cleos Corner number 10, Distilling History to Its Essence by Mark Herman. Daddy, you said you don't like war, so why do you play these games? By VPJ Arponen. And then we've got several on the campaigns of 1777 by Terry Leeds, Harold Buchanan, and Joel Toppin. If you're wondering what all these gentlemen have in common, they are all war game designers. A Churchill Variant, adding Henry Wallace instead of Truman, obviously, or maybe not obviously, depends on how well you know your U.S. history from the 1940s. Pericles Variant, Polemos by Mark Herman and Herr Doctor. C3i Interview with Jose Ruiz by Jose Ruiz is Stuka Joe, and that's by Steve Carey. Empire of the Sun, December 1941 Variant by Mark Herman. Issy Campaign 1815 New Rules and Scenario by Frederick Bay. That was also, I believe, in this issue, 32, I think, if I remember correctly. Then we have a scenario for SPQR, Battle of the Po River 203 BC by Daniel Forney. Solitaire Tactics Methods for the Battles of the American Revolution by Joel Toppin. C3i Interview with Ted Racer. Ted Racer, of course, designed I, Napoleon, in addition to other things before that, of course. He's not a noob by any stretch of the imagination, but that's interesting that that's in here because I just did 5 videos, I think, on I, Napoleon, which, of course, is designed by Ted Racer. Then we've got Oh My God, They Killed Castro, South Park's Twilight Struggle by Twilight Struggle designer Jason Matthews, in memory of Richard Berg, 1943 to 2019 by Mark Herman. Mark Herman and Richard Berg were friends. They designed several games together, or probably more than several. Unconditional Surrender, Weather Limitations by Sal Vasta, again, the designer of that. And then In Memory of Chad Jensen by Roger McGowan. Obviously, Chad Jensen was the designer of Combat Commander, among other things. Very, very creative and innovative designer who was lost way too soon. Then we've got inserts here. I won't go through all of that. I feel like I went way too long already. So here's our alternative airborne landing locations for Holland 44 by Trevor Bender. So you've got some new C3i counters to mark the new drop hexes. So these the counters that come with this magazine fit extremely well with GMT games. They're basically the same. And then you have, these are the hex locations, obviously, based on your die rolls to determine where those landing locations are. Skip the page there. So here's Propaganda Round number 3, Stock and Flow in War Games by Volko Runka. I think I said Stack and Flow earlier. Sorry about that. Propaganda Round number 1 was Coin Series Complexity, Bigger is Not Always Better. And number 2 was Coin Series Variety, Familiar Not Samey. Okay, so this one, he's looking, it looks like at an Africa Corps here, which is an older game, and supplies flow across Libya to replenish their stock. Okay, so talking about supply, I suppose, yeah, war game supply mechanics. And then he uses some other examples. We've got Wacht am Rhein, War and Peace, Fire in the Lake, of which he was the co-designer, and Sovereigns at hand in a treasury box near the player's seat in Empires of the Middle Ages. So you can see this is an in-depth article, lots of pictures, as you would expect from a Roger McGowan publication, lots of images and artwork. What about stock and flow in tactical games? A little bit on that. So this is a very long, this is a lot longer than I thought it would be, but Volko is a very sharp guy, and I'm sure this is an outstanding article. Then we've got Behind Fields of Fire, Infantry Weapons and Tactics by Ben Hull, who is the game designer, as it says right there. Ballistics of Spitzer Rounds. Interesting. Now I have both Fields of Fire and Fields of Fire 2. I have not yet played them for video. I was actually waiting for the upgrade kit, which I think is going to be coming soon. I hope. It seems like it's been a while. So yeah, another long article here. We've got various weapons and their ranges, their penetration, some notes. So you can see, as I said, lots of pictures. We got some illustrations. A couple more ads for T-shirts from the Roger McGowan Design T-shirt collection. Some prints of his work as well. Now we've got Mark Herman doing Cleos Corner number 10, Distilling History to Its Essence, or How to Make Wargame Moonshine. So this, yeah, anything Mark Herman writes is usually well worth reading, or not usually, it's pretty much always worth reading. Having said that, his book is coming at some point, I believe, in the not too distant future. And yes, so see, this is a very extensive article. Here's the Daddy You Say You Don't Like War, so why do you play these games? By VPJ Arponen, and more stuff here. Here's the Campaigns of 1777 map, which is pretty nice. So you've got all the battles listed down here, and then they're numbered for where they took place. That's very interesting. That's pretty cool. Not gonna say I don't think that's cool. Campaigns of 1777 by Harold Buchanan, from Strategy and Tactics number 316, published by Decision Games. So you see there's a little crossover here. they don't only talk about GMT games, which might be the impression you get given, the mix of who's doing stuff in here and the fact that some of the inserts are for GMT games and so on. But this game was actually in another war game magazine, Strategy and Tactics, which is, of course, published by Decision Games. And so you've got some stuff, and a solitaire play method for Campaigns of 1777 by Joel Toppin. And then we've got Churchill Variant, adding Henry Wallace, Roosevelt's vice president, until January 45. He was replaced on the ticket in 44, of course, by Harry Truman, who became president when Roosevelt passed away in April of 45. Then we've got the Polemos, I hope I said that right, variant for Pericles, by Mark Herman and Herr Doctor, who are currently working on a game about Ukrainian war. There's Stupid Joe. There's a C3i interview done by Steve Carey with Stupid Joe. I'm sure if you're watching this, you probably have seen Stupid Joe's stuff on YouTube. He's pretty prolific and pretty well known for his quality content. And also as the designer of the solo bot system for card-driven war games, which is really, really good. Squad leader. I mentioned this in my Roger McGowan, the Art of Roger McGowan feature, but this was the first war game I ever bought, and I didn't know it at the time because I was like 12, but the artwork was done by Roger McGowan. So here he's doing, see, he's got some cool tech that I don't have, like he's got a rail or something here, I think, for his for how he does his YouTube. I'm going to read this since I do YouTube stuff. Maybe steal some tips from one of the best out there. Then we've got a December 41 variant for Mark Herman's Empire of the Sun as well. Here's the ISI campaign. This campaign scenario is specially designed by, especially designed for ISI 1815, 44th Battle in the Joie du Gloire. I have no idea if I said that right. My French is atrocious. It's non-existent, so when I try it, it's just simply atrocious. That was published in C3i magazine number 32, so the one before this one, which was the one I also had Gettysburg. So you got two games in that issue. Invasion Hawaii. So some specific rules for that game, courtesy of the game's designer. Then we've got some new counters here. I might have to pick up 32 so that I can play that. SPQR, which I have, another game I have that I have not done for video. I have several of the games in that series, the Great Battles of History. So this is cool. You've got an additional scenario here for the Battle of the Po River in 203 BC. And solitaire tactic methods for playing the Battles of the American Revolution series games. Again, by Joel Toppin. This is interesting because I don't have any of this series only because I've heard it's very not friendly for solitaire, and I play a lot of games solitaire. Just the nature of the beast. So, for me at least, it's the nature of the beast, not for everybody. Then we had the interview here with Ted Racer. There he is. I have this, and I have this, as well as I, Napoleon, which is his current game. And actually, I don't have any of these, although I would be interested in probably playing all three of them, to be honest. South Park type artwork here. Oh, it's probably a screenshot from, oh yeah, that time South Park referenced Twilight Struggle. I don't watch South Park all that often, so I missed this one, but that's pretty funny that they're playing Twilight Struggle. Blame Canada. Oh my God, the Canucks killed Kenny. There's nothing that's out of bounds for that particular show, and that's pretty funny. And Jason Matthews, of course, is the co-designer of Twilight Struggle. Here's the article in memory of Richard H. Berg. 1943 to 2019. That, of course, is Mark Herman sitting next to Richard Berg at the 1989 Los Angeles Origins Convention. And the photo is by Roger McGowan. And he references the death of Chad Jensen as well, right in the first sentence. Obviously, those were two pretty big losses for the wargaming community that took place in the same year, I believe. And here's a thing here on Chad Jensen, in memory of Chad Jensen, by Roger McGowan. And if I remember correctly, in number 34, I think, there's a more kind of in-depth thing about Chad Jensen, if I remember correctly. It's the one that has the Battle of Kursk in it, which is by Trevor Bender, and we'll see that one at some point as well. You can count on it. So that's the magazine. Now let's take a look at some of the inserts. So we have an insert here for the Lombardi Studios that Roger worked with on the World War I game. I know that for sure. And you can see it's a card game, which is cool because it's all Roger McGowan artwork. I mean, that alone would probably make it worth your while to have. I don't have it, but I probably should. Then we've got the Empire of the Sun and Churchill card. So this is Empire of the Sun. Here's our Henry Wallace card, President of the United States, for Churchill. And there's the Blaine Kenny card for Twilight Struggle. Then you've got some counters here for the 41 variant of Empire of the Sun, and the ISI campaign variant right here, and then Henry Wallace block label, and you can see they're double-sided. And we've got the SPQR Deluxe Scenario. So this gives you, if you've played Great Battles of History, you get like the sheet of basically who's on, what units you're using and deploying them and so on, right? So this is pretty standard. And it's, yeah, you just get the setup and everything for this scenario, the Battle of the Po River. Then you have labels. If you buy some of the boxes from RBM Studio, you can use these stickers on those as well. Now we get into the Waterloo stuff. So let's get this out. So first, let's look at the rules, because unlike what we saw in our first volume of this series, the rules for this game are not inside the rule book. They're separate, or inside the magazine rather. They are separate. So if you're familiar with the system, it's not overly complicated. It's not dead simple, but it is very well designed, and it is compact and very playable. So here you have the rules for Waterloo Campaign 1815 by Mark Herman. And again, I have videos on, I have two videos, I guess, on Rebel Fury. So you can check that out because that is the same system. I also have a video of the PC version of Gettysburg, which is, of course, is the game that came right before this one. So you can also look at that if you're curious about how it plays. I will play this game. Absolutely 100% certainty. I just don't know when. So that's just something to, a little caveat, as I like to say. Here's the map. So you got scenarios. So we're on page 8, and we're already into the scenarios and an example of play. Right? So these are your example of play. You can see he everything Mark Herman does is extremely well done. Let's just put it that way. So again, example of play, pretty extensive here. Lots of illustrations. And then you get the Waterloo Campaign. And again, here's the map and some more information on that. Pretty straightforward. Like I said, this is not a complicated system, but it is a good system. So here we have the terrain effects chart. Pretty straightforward. Again, the game is very, very streamlined. There's not a lot of excess rules, rule exceptions, or anything like that. Attack summary, how attacking works. Each player rolls one die and adds any die roll modifiers listed below. These are what modify it. Player with the higher total wins the combat, ties or stalemates. Really simple. Subtract the lower total from the higher total to determine the specific result of the combat. And you can see the combat results table, which is down here. And that might be one of the smallest CRTs you're ever going to find. And that just tells you what happened. So that's that. Then we've got player A card here with a map for the setup. So here's our setup. And on the other side, you've got your turn record track, fresh setup on turn 1, remaining moves and attacks because that you have a limited number of moves you can make. It's a really innovative system. Let's just put it that way. I think it's really good. Obviously, then we have here tactics tables for the battles of the American Revolution, which obviously is not Waterloo, but it was tucked in with all the Waterloo stuff. So that is that. And then we have, of course, our counters. So these are the counters. Now the counter sheets, here you can see this is Waterloo. This is Pericles. Well, these would be Waterloo as well. This is Plan Orange. This is Fields of Fire. This is Plan Orange over here. So you can see everything is labeled Wilderness War, Clash of Giants, Last 100 Yards, Holland 44, alternate airborne landings. Then we've got Gallipoli over here, and Unconditional Surrender, Hoplite, and Sardis. Interesting. And they are, as you would expect, double-sided. This is basically like a GMT counter sheet. It's essentially the same in terms of quality, etc. Here's our map. So it is, I think, 22 by 17. I have it upside down. Let me adjust my shot here so we can see it a little better. Okay, so this is about as big as I can get it. We're missing a little bit at the bottom, and I'll get to that in a moment. I just wanted to kind of show that, again, this is the Waterloo Campaign. So this is a large map. It covers a lot of the area. And you can see like Wavra's up here, and Ligny is here. And then if we go down a little further, you can see that it goes all the way down here to Charleroi. And the Moor is over here. So you've got the whole area on which that campaign took place, all the different battles, etc., leading up to the big one, of course, the famous one. But this is the map. The hexes are very subdued. They're on here. You can hopefully see that there are hexes on here, but they are very, very subdued. They are numbered as well. You can really see them on the clearer terrain. But this is the map pretty much in total. You can see down here Waterloo 1815, or Waterloo Campaign 1815, RBM Studio, C3i magazine. So that is going to do it for this video. As I said, we will be playing this in the not too distant future. So thanks as always for watching. That's going to do it for this one. Please feel free to ask questions, comment, etc. Consider liking, sharing, and or subscribing. That is always welcome. But that's going to do it. So until next time, I'm Joe. This is the Hexed Encounter channel. And as always, happy gaming.